This meeting of the regular Oak Park City Council is called to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Ed Norris, please call the roll.
Mayor McClellan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Rich.
Here.
Councilmember Weiss.
Here.
Very good. Full house. Please add to the bottom of the meeting a closed meeting. I guess it would be 16A. Thank you. And there is an amended copy of the minutes from March 19th that you have at your place and that will be available. One item was omitted. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The consent agenda, these are routine items presented as one vote, but things can be removed from the blanket motion. Does someone want one removed this time?
Yeah, if you could pull H.
Pull H, okay. That leaves A, regular council meeting minutes of March 19th, revised. B, special council meeting minutes of March 19th. C, rezoning and environmental conservation commission meeting minutes of December 21st. D, zoning board of appeals meeting minutes, November 28th. Arts and Cultural Diversity Commission meeting minutes, January 11th. Resolution designating Kevin J. Yee as the agent for the City of Oak Park with regard to the Oakland County West Nile Virus Reimbursement Program. G, payment application number 3 final for the 2016-17 miscellaneous concrete project M644 to Rontondo Construction Corporation of Farmington Hills, Michigan for the total amount of $1,000. We will discuss H soon. I, payment of invoices from OHM Advisors for the Seneca and Sherman Pocket Parks, traffic signal optimization, SAW grant support, and bridge enhancements in the total amount of $25,643.13. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Okay, that passed. Let's take a look at item H, which is a resolution supporting the 2018 Tri-Party Program, authorizing the submission of funding for long-awaited repairs to Greenfield Road. And for that, we welcome Director Dave DeCoster.
Good morning, good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager. Basically, the Tri-Party Program funds road repairs to county roads. And what we're going to request this year is that the Road Commission begin to repair Greenfield north of 10 Mile. So basically patchwork north of 10 Mile.
Now, when you say patchwork, I asked you earlier, and you said it's not just like the little patches that we put in potholes. It's, can you explain?
Yeah, I don't anticipate joint repairs or partial depth repairs. We'll be doing larger scale patches to fix some of the worst areas out there.
And the size was?
They could vary depending on how bad the area is, but typically joint spacing is about 15 feet, so it could be 15 by 10, 15 by 30. It really depends on the
So we're not
damage area.
talking about those little?
No, I don't
Yeah.
anticipate very small repairs.
All right. That's, everyone will be awaiting that with bated breath.
As are we.
Thank you.
So we no longer have to wear a mouth guard when we drive down Greenfield.
Well, unfortunately, we probably don't have enough funding to repair everything, but it's a start.
How much do you think you will be able to repair? I know you said north of 10 Mile. Do you anticipate you're going to be able to repair all of the north of 10 Mile, or?
Absolutely not. It's just, there's not enough money to do all of it. I don't have prices yet. We don't have confirmation yet on the exact areas. We're going to meet with the road commission next week. So maybe in a meeting or two, we should have a better handle on what exactly we're going to do. But it really, until the bid prices come back, that really dictates, the scope of the project. So, but we will certainly do as much as we can with the funding that we have.
Right. Any further questions? Thank you. So motion to approve item H on the consent agenda.
So moved?
Support.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We don't have elected officials or special recognitions or public hearings, but there are special licenses under item 10. 10A. This is a special event request and waiver of fees as submitted by the Oak Park Arts and Cultural Diversity Commission for the wonderful World Day of Dance held at the Community Center on April 29th, 2018. Need a motion to accept this and waive the fees.
So moved?
Support?
Discussion or questions? If you haven't been to one of these, you must come. They are great. Bring the kids. It's dancers from everywhere, and they're just a delight to watch. Admission is free. Item B, special event request and
We need a
waiver.
vote on that. Madam
Sorry?
Mayor. We need a vote on that.
We need a vote. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Special event request and waiver of fees submitted by the Oak Park Arts and Cultural Diversity Commission, a busy group, for the Detroit Institute of Arts Inside Out art installation and associated activities on June 5th, 2018, and July 13th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Is there-
Support?
Moved and supported. Councilmember Weiss, do you, can you say a little bit about what's happening on June 5th?
Yeah, so there's a group in Oak Park called the Easy Roll, and they go on weekly bike rides. And so on June 5th, there's going to be a bike tour of the art exhibits that are being installed through the
Nice.
DIA Inside Out program. And then there's also going to be a senior lunch brunch bus tour on Friday, July 13th, where they are going to go around to the different installations as well. And at the end of each, there's going to be different activities. I know there's going to be, I don't know exactly what's confirmed, but I believe one involves Petite's Cheesecake, and there's going to be a tasting at the end of one of those events.
Ooh, that ought to bring the people out just by itself. Wonderful, that's great news. We have a motion, we have a second.
The brunch is
Is there, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Another two great events. If you're a little active, take the bike tour. Senior lunch, anyone know where the lunch is?
Call Denise DeSantis down
Yeah.
for a minute to answer that.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City Manager. It's actually going to be 3 different events. We've added another one on since this application went through, and they did have to change the June 5th date to June 24th. That's when Easy Roll is actually available and the docent is available. But there's 3 events. One is going to be a selfie competition that anybody can participate in at any time. We're going to launch it at the kickoff on the Spring Fest on May 6th between 1 to 4. We'll have a booth there and we'll have information, and they can go around to some of the city installations. If you take a picture of yourself with the art and then you send it to our Facebook or our Instagram accounts, and we'll set something up for those that don't have social media. Then you can be entered for a wonderful prize and giveaways. A DIA is going to contribute, and Front Page Deli is sponsoring. The second one, the Easy Roll, is actually a lot of fun. It's going to be our Easy Roll, 80 to 140 bikers that are going to come out on that Sunday, hopefully. We'll have T-shirts for them. We're going to start out at some of the installations. We're not going to go to all of them because we're not going to cross over too many major streets with that kind of a group. But they will also have the ability to stop. A docent will talk to them about the art installation, and they can make selfies while they stop. Nice little family event on a Sunday from 1 to 4. I'm sorry, it starts at 2:30 and goes till 4. And then on the third date, that's kind of fun. We're going to take the seniors out on the buses that we have. But if we get more people than we have spaces on our 2 buses, DIA is going to send their bus our way to take on more. And it's kind of cute because Ernie's Market is going to have a little surprise for everybody right after, and that's going to be one of our last stops. And our absolute last stop will be Petite's Cheesecake, and I'm sure we're going to have some treats there. And it's going to be just a really nice evening and a lot of events for the next 3 months.
And where is the lunch?
The lunch is going to, well, for the seniors, we're going to pick it up at Ernie's when we see the art that's there, but we're going to go back to the community center, and we're going to eat in a more cafeteria style.
Like a bag lunch?
Yeah, and they're
Nice.
going to have a docent, even they're talking about our DIA Away program, which is another grant that was received by the rec department for the Summerfest, and they'll be talking about that program there as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it. We'll have information in the city magazine and around in our different communications.
Fantastic. We did this once before, but this is hyped up 4 times.
Yeah, and Ernie's, he's on television, and he's on radio, so I hear they're going to come out for a couple of our events. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Terrific. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Denise, is there a cost involved for the luncheon?
There's no, you know what, there's no cost. The Recreation Department has waived their fees for the bus transportation. Ernie is taking care of our sandwiches, and
Ernie is
Petite's got a little
donating
bit
the
of-
sandwiches?
Yep.
Was that a yes?
Yes, yep. And then we're going to have the little bit of a taste of the cheesecake from Petite's, and they're donating it as well. A very nice program.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, the community's really excited about it.
What's the
That's-
time?
The
time?
senior
11
lunch
to 2.
bunch, July 13th, what
It's going
time?
to be
11 to
July
2.
13th from 11 to 2. It'll
11
be
to
just like the
2.
regular lunch
Till my
bunch
mom to tell.
program that they have for the 50 Up Club.
And the selfie competition, July 24th?
Selfie is going to go through the whole event. The art's going to be installed on April 17th. We're going to actually have the kickoff party at the Spring Fest and tell people about it.
At
But-
where?
At the Spring Fest,
Okay.
and that's May 6th from 1 to 4 on a Sunday. And then anybody can go at any time, bring your family, go to some of the art installations, all of them, everyone that you enter a picture in with, and it's a fun picture. So you can pose with it, you can be part of the picture. It's really kind of a cute social media event that we're putting on. And then there's going to be some really good prizes. I can't announce it till I can confirm it, but you'll really like the prizes.
Wonderful, thank you, and that commission is rocking.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
Terrific.
And July 3rd, June 24th and
Bids, on item 12.
Okay.
Tabulation. 12A. This is a request to award the bid for the 2018 lawn maintenance contract, M678, to Expert Lawn and Snow of Warren, Michigan, for a total amount with alternates of $108,596. Well, let's get the motion in the second.
So moved.
Support?
Moved and supported. He is right.
Good
Don't
evening
even
again.
have to call him, he's there. All right.
At the March 5th, 2018 regular Oak Park City Council meeting, the request to rebid the 2018 lawn maintenance contract M678 was approved. The product was advertised in 22 contractors viewed documents. At the March 26, 2018 bid opening, 2 bids were received and opened. The low bidder was Expert Lawn and Snow of Warren, Michigan. References were checked and all had positive reviews. It is recommended the city council award the bid for the 2018 lawn maintenance contract M678 to Expert Lawn and Snow of Warren, Michigan for a total amount with alternates of $108,596. Funding
Can I
is
ask,
available.
what are alternates?
The way, when we rebid it, we took out a couple of the areas and did an alternate. So 8 Mile was that area. And if pricing was too high and we didn't kind of like that pricing, we were going to take it on in-house. But pricing came back good, so we're going to award the contract with the alternates.
Thank you.
So funding is available in the major and local street funds, water and sewer fund, as well as the public works fund for this expenditure. One other thing to note is Oak Park will, at the end of the season, we will request reimbursement from the road commission as well as MDOT for roughly $17,700.
I know people on council might have a question, but we don't ever seem to have the same people twice.
We have had, I think, one vendor twice. It's a difficult contract.
It's a what?
It's a difficult contract, so we've not awarded it to some people we've had in the past. And this is a new vendor. Like I said, their reviews were positive, so I anticipate a successful project. But it goes out there, it's publicly opened, sealed bid, so anybody has the opportunity to bid on it.
Cool. All right. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm looking at the bid tabulation on the back of this,
Yeah,
and
it's a lot of variety, huh?
a lot of variety. Some of the numbers
Wow.
don't really seem to make a whole lot of sense. If somebody's willing to do something for $100 and somebody else is willing to do it for $1, it makes you wonder if it's really going to get done. I know last year we had some problems, and we actually had to, I believe, switch companies in the middle.
That's correct, yes.
And are we being, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this is directed towards you or to our manager, to our attorney. I don't know if there's some sort of liquidated damages clause that we can put in there, or if there's some sort of, I don't know. Are we being penny wise and pound foolish?
So not to take the lowest bid.
Not even not to, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Is it, no matter, there's really no way of doing it. We can't say, everybody give us your bids and then take the middle one. That
I
doesn't
wish
make
we
a whole lot
could.
of sense.
It-
But on the other hand, by taking, by encouraging such low bids, are we encouraging people to just disregard the contracts after a while?
These numbers are significantly higher than last year with the reduced scope of work.
Even the low one?
Even
is
the low
higher?
one.
Last time it was like around 80,000.
Yeah, last year was more acreage, about 60 more acres, and about 25,000 less. What we're hearing in the industry right now is people are having a hard time getting work, getting labor. I've talked to this company. They were the low bidder the first time around as well, which we rejected to kind of hone in the scope a little bit. I've had multiple conversations with them. They're confident that they can handle it. Like I said, I've called their references personally. All their references came back positive. So at this point, like I said, we're gonna manage them and hope that we have a successful project.
The one that caught my eye was number 25 on cul-de-sacs, 39 locations around town. One is offering to do it for $195 a week, I guess.
Yeah, per week.
The other one was $800.
Yeah, and again, all of our bid tabs, you can look at numbers, you can play with numbers any way you want. They typically, a lot of the companies that I've talked to will take the acreage and assign a price to the acreage. That's why when I talked to them, I said, please examine the sites, because just because it's 5 acres versus 2 acres doesn't make it any easier. So we've talked to them. Like I said, I'm confident that we can have a successful project. But yeah, we could scrutinize the numbers any which way, but
It's probably the total that counts the most.
Exactly. And like I said, we'll do our best to manage them and make sure we have a successful project.
All right, any other questions? Okay, let's see. Roll call, please. Question, yes. Councilmember Burns.
And I think you may have said this already, but you said the alternates, with alternates. The alternates are other companies, right?
No.
Originally, we bid everything as the full scope of the project. When we rebid it, we took the 8 Mile picking and the 8 Mile mowing and made them alternates, which basically means that at this time, when we bid the project, we could either bid it with the alternates, or if we didn't like the pricing, if we weren't comfortable with them doing it, we could exclude the alternates. At this point, we're confident that this company can do 8 Mile, and we want to award the full scope of the project.
Okay, I was just misinterpreting the use of the word alternates.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Ready to vote? Roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item 13A, second reading and adoption of an ordinance to amend Article 2 definitions, Article 6, RM1 and RM2 multifamily residential district, Article 17, general provisions, Appendix A, zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oak Park, Michigan. Is there a motion to approve the second reading and adoption?
So moved.
That's Mayor Pro Tem.
Support.
Support. Member Burns. Are there questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Kim, can you just elaborate on the second reading and just remind everybody what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, excuse me. The second reading for the ordinances that we're changing have a lot to do with the redevelopment ready certification process, and this is one of our last steps in getting that certification approved by the state of Michigan. It includes items to allow for alternate types of housing. One is stacked flats and townhouses, which we've never identified in our multifamily residential area. So we're just adding those as additional allowed uses. We also added some green infrastructure amendments that we would consider that in doing new developments. We also added bike parking as a general provision of any new developments within the city to encourage more people to use non-motorized transportation. Excuse me. And then the one thing I did want to note is there was a question in the first reading in regards to one of the provisions of the screening and landscaping section for the green infrastructure by Councilmember Rich. And we had our city attorney take a look at it, and Courtney Kraus sent a message to all city council members and the mayor. So I just wanted to make sure that you were okay with that, or if you wanted to make that change that Courtney suggested moving forward with the second reading. And it was just a simple change in Section A, the general provisions, and then removing the rest of the text after that. She thought that was the easiest way, so there was no confusion that residential properties, single-family and two-family residences would not be required to meet those requirements. So it's up to City Council if they want to include that in the second reading.
What is the will of council?
Yes.
Councilmember Kenrich.
Yes.
Yes. Please include the change.
Okay.
Is that, so do we need another motion as amended, or?
Yes.
Just,
I'll make the motion that we amend it to include that change.
okay, so we vote on the amendment, and then we vote on the motion.
Second?
Moved and seconded.
Are there two motions on the floor right now?
There's a motion to accept it as is, and then there's an amendment. So you vote on the amendment, and if it's accepted, you vote on the first
Okay.
motion as amended.
So we're going to vote twice now?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Roll call, please. This is on that small amendment.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Motion carried. Now, we're voting on the motion that's already on the floor, the amended motion, second reading and adoption. Okay, as amended with that small change that we
Yes.
just voted on. Okay, ready? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Oh, Kim,
Yes. Question?
yeah, I have one more question. Not in regards to the ordinance itself, but how far along are we in our quest to get redevelopment ready? How many more green boxes do we have left?
We've actually filled all the green boxes, but we had to get final approval on all the outstanding ordinances, and this should be our last one. So
Okay.
other than adding one or two items to the website, they're doing the final review right now, so we should be certified within the month.
And we have that
Thank you.
part about training the commissioners and
Yep.
all of that,
Yep, and we're tracking the training as well.
tracking the training.
Yep.
Thank
That
you.
was monumental. That
I'm
was
glad it's done.
monumental. You got an A on your report card.
Thank you.
And your whole department.
Thank you.
All right. City Attorney, City Manager. City Manager Eric Tungate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to request, I think our Finance Director, Sandra Crawford, is going to join me for 15A. This is our annual request to add the Berkeley School District collection to our summer tax levy.
Should we make a motion first
What's that?
for 15A?
We can.
All right.
Let's,
I
um,
move for the approval.
Support?
This is to approve an agreement with Berkeley School District to collect their 2018 summer tax levy, which is just a standard thing we do every year. So it's been moved and supported, and there is a little discussion with that. There's no, did we get a second?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Sorry.
Got it? Is the question about who seconded? No. No?
No, I think we're,
You want me just to read it?
we're probably ready to vote on this one. This one's very
Right.
standard.
Yeah, very standard. Okay, ready to vote? We don't have questions.
Not on 15A.
No. A roll call.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
motion carried. Here is,
15B, Director Crawford, if you could go through just a brief explanation, and council members, you received these waiver packets late, and I want to apologize for that. The timing of all of this has been very quick. We've put it together as fast as we could. They are due by April 16th,
I don't have a
and
packet,
you'll
do
see
you?
5 different packets in your, if you haven't received them, they're on the way. I think Crystal is bringing them in here momentarily.
Oh, okay.
But in the meantime, if you
Should
could
we-
explain what these are, Sandra.
Sure.
Oh, this is the state of Michigan requires these to get a waiver.
That is correct for our annual, good evening, Mayor, Council.
This is the
City
new
Manager.
law
Public Act.
put out by the state of Michigan for the pension funding.
Right, Public Act 202, and basically what we had to do was at the end of our fiscal year, file a retirement system annual report based on the new legislation. And once we did that, we met the unfunded status. And so basically, they surveyed about 530, I think, reports. 490 they've researched and found that at least 170 municipalities were underfunded, either in their pension or their retirement health care obligations. And so on March 2nd of this year, we were notified by the state Treasurer's Department that of our preliminary underfunded status of our retirees' health care and pension systems in accordance with the Act, Public Act 202 of 2017. We are now provided the opportunity to apply for a waiver based on our preliminary underfunded status of each system, and that was within the 45 days notification to which the city manager indicated it was April 16th. Each application waiver demonstrates the steps that the city has already taken for each of our systems, which include the public safety.
So this is a history. This isn't anything new that's happening. This
Right.
is what we've done so far to...
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And this is for the public safety retiree health care system, the general employee retiree health care system, the district court retiree health care system, the public safety pension system, and the general employees pension system. And if the state treasurer determines that the underfunded status of each of our systems is adequately being addressed and accepts our waiver applications, then the preliminary underfunded status will be revoked for each system. So what the action that I'm asking for tonight is that you approve the waiver application for each of the 5 systems that I
So
outlined above.
we're asking to send in, here's what we've done so far, and will you approve this as our plan? Yes. Now, we don't have
I don't have it.
a motion. So we need a motion to approve the applications for waiver and plan.
So moved?
That's, let's see, Weiss and Burns. Yep. Now we can have discussion. Yes, Member Weiss.
I know we're going to have a lot of questions, but just a really quick point of clarification. My understanding through discussion earlier with the city manager is that the district court retiree health care system is actually part of the general employee retirement health care system, but for the purpose of this report, the state's requiring us
That is correct.
to separate it. Is that correct?
Yes. That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions about this one?
Where are the reports?
The
They're-
reports are
They're still coming.
coming.
May I-
Should
Madam
we-
Mayor, may I,
Mhm, yes.
just a couple of things I wanted to add. One is within all of these, whether it be the 2 pension systems or the 3 retiree healthcare systems we have listed out here, they're looking at system design. So what have you changed in the system design? Meaning, are you changing the final average compensation, or the multiplier could be, and so forth. We've done both of those, by the way. The next thing they're looking at is additional funding that
What's
we
the first
provide.
thing we changed besides the multiplier? Sorry.
Do you want me to read these since we're waiting on, I don't,
Yeah.
she's bringing them in. She had to make it, Liz all happened last minute. So when you look at the first one, I'm going to read these very quickly if I could. Public safety retirement system, system design. Here are some of the things we've done. We restructured the final average compensation, the way it's calculated for both bargaining units, the patrol officers and the command officers. And as of July 1, 2011, any new employee's FAC is calculated based on their effective base wage rate only. Prior to these changes, overtime bonuses and other monetary remunerations were included in employees' FAC calculations. That's a pretty big change.
Yeah.
2, employees in the POM and bargaining unit hired beginning on April 1st, 2015 are no longer eligible to purchase municipal service time. Previously, they could have municipal time at another city or county or whatever and bring it in and get credit for it. That's no longer the case as of 2015. The multiplier that is used to determine their compensation when they're receiving their pension has been changed from a 2.8 multiplier to a 2.5 multiplier, and that's for all employees in the patrol officers bargaining unit. Number 4, this was effective July 1, 2015. The unions in public safety have both agreed to increase their employee contributions. As of July 1st, 2015, it was 7.5% of their gross pay they agreed to contribute. July 1st, 2017, it was 8.5%, and July 1st, 2018, it'll be 9.5%.
Wow.
And those are some of the system design changes that all work in the favor of the funded status. In terms of additional funding, on the 3rd page, obviously Public Act 345 is additional funding that the city has found since 2012. We've also made additional contributions over and above our required contribution. In fiscal year 2014, we about $760,000 additional beyond what we were required to. 2015 was about $278,000 additional. 2016, almost $200,000 additional. And then just this last year, about $72,000 additional. Other considerations, obviously, we have a new actuary with the retirement system, so we believe that all of these changes and some other assumption changes is going to equal over 60% funded. And I think we have a pretty good chance on the pension side for public safety and the general system to get a waiver on the pension side. That was public safety. If you want me to keep going, I'll read just the differences between the two. There's a lower employee contribution multiplier for the general retirement system than there is for the public safety one. That's been negotiated over the years.
So these are significant changes.
Well, these are significant changes that speak volumes to the negotiations that have happened in the contracts in the past, as well as some of the administrative changes the city administration has made over the years. But all of these are the kinds of changes the state is looking at to determine if the city is on the right track or if it's on the wrong track. And now that you have it in front of you there, if you look at the general employee retirement system, pension system, if you look on page 2, where it speaks, just like I did for public safety, it speaks to system design changes. And I won't read those to you unless you want me to. So these are not new things. These are things we have done. This is just a recollection of things we have done.
Which is what they asked for.
Was what they asked for. In terms of additional funding to the general system, 2014, we contributed an additional $155,000. 2016 was $18,000. 2017, just last year, $81,000 additional beyond what we're required to. And here again, we're asking for other considerations to get a waiver for the general system pension system. On the retiree health care side, we have 3 of them.
Can I ask what's 4A?
That should be, there's an attachment behind that. I think that's just a cover page. So that's just, that speaks to the, that's from the last actuarial. I'm sorry, this is the CAFR. This is the last CAFR we had. And this shows you just in terms of the dollar amounts that were contributed. Okay? And on the retiree healthcare side, a couple of things here, starting with the public safety retiree healthcare system design changes. We've closed the retiree healthcare system to all new hires. We don't allow any new hires, including public safety, to be part of that. We put everyone into what's called a healthcare savings account or a defined contribution plan for healthcare. So obviously that's going to work in favor in terms of the city's long term. We've also pre-funded some of our retiree healthcare obligations. About $3 million has been set aside. Obviously, Public Act 345 contributes to that, having a dedicated source of revenue. And then, additional considerations. We have a litigation that was settled in the favor of a couple bargaining units that has set a precedent that we can't overcome. They'll consider that, obviously. On the general employee retiree healthcare system, again, I won't go through all these unless you want me to, but we've increased co-pays for retirees as well as active employees on their healthcare benefit. We've closed the system, as I mentioned, for public safety. Same thing here. And there's the $3 million pre-funded, and the same thing goes on the other considerations. And then it's really just mirrored again for the district court retiree healthcare system.
I have a question.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
In the two public safety plans, both for retirees and for the Public Safety Retirement Fund, in the portion where it asks you to enter additional funding statement here, you included the fact on both of those, and only on those two, not on the other three, that PA 245 is set to expire soon, and that we're essentially assuming that it's going to be renewed, that those 7 mills are going to be renewed. And, obviously, I don't want this to, let's put it out there in the open, that this is going to be necessary. We don't really have much of a choice because of this PA 202. If we don't renew these 7, where does that put us?
Well,
Actually, I should say not if we don't renew the 7. If we don't ask the citizens to renew these 7 mills, where does that put us?
well, only thing I would say is just my opinion. Where does that put us? We're treading water, essentially. And there are plenty of steps that we can take to provide additional funding. And again, we've provided additional funding to both systems, as I mentioned a moment ago. But we have to find additional ways and new sources of additional funding to add on top of our annual required contribution. One of the things we did put in here, as you mentioned, was that the millage, the City Council has agreed to place the millage on the November ballot. Obviously, there's a lot of work that needs to go into what that means for our voters and so forth.
I have
So
a question. Councilmember Weiss.
So basically, what we're doing here is we have waivers that we're filing with the state because the state has mandated that we must fund our pension and our retiree system to a certain percentage. And so we're filing these waivers asking if we can get a pass for the next fiscal year. If they come back and say no, what would be the next step after that?
The next step after that would be that within 6 months, I believe it is, we have to submit what they're calling a plan of action. So many of the steps that I've outlined that we've already taken, and again, this is just a recounting of those, they would ask us to take additional steps.
What kind of steps?
Well, cutting benefits to retirees, especially on the retiree healthcare side. In the statute, Public Act 202 of 2017, it even allows for the state to assign a receiver, if need be, in certain situations to the retirement system or systems.
Can I ask a follow-up? If let's say we submit everything that's been submitted to the state, and they look at it and they say, not good enough. Alternatively, November 2018, we put the 7 mills back on the ballot, PA 345 to be renewed for those 7 mills, and the voters say, no, thank you. Then the state's going to come in and what? They basically can just do whatever they want? They can take over our finances, and where does that leave us?
I think everybody.
I know it's a new law, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
No,
but-
it's okay. And I just would say that I would hedge this statement I'm about to make just by saying, again, this is my opinion. I do keep a cash flow of, scenario planning, cash flow type thing. And if the voters did not renew Public Act 345, that would just leave us having to find about $3 million in our operating budget.
Every year.
Could we do that if we had to? Absolutely. Are we going to lose valuable city resources in the process? Of course. There's
Devastating.
there's only two ways to overcome a deficit. Either you bring more money in or you make cuts. So, we've chosen a path of both over the last several years, and that's tended to work in our favor. But 345 is an absolute critical piece of our overall picture here. And in many other
The state
communities.
will look at it and say, still not good enough.
It's
I think it's
possible.
unlikely, in all honesty, I think it's unlikely the state would do that. But it's possible that we'll submit it the way it is, and the state will look at it and say, even with those 7 mills, not good enough, we're coming in and taking over, slashing everything.
Yeah, anything's possible. I think under the statute, there's quite a bit of authority that's granted to the state treasurer, including, by the way, meaning the state treasurer has the authority under law to set the assumptions for the systems. I don't know how you do that across the board, but as Director Crawford mentioned, there are, 170 communities now that are determined to be
Yes.
underfunded across the state. I don't know if the state of Michigan wants to adopt 170 communities, but that's kind of what they're prospecting to do here. It's not pretty.
I have a question.
Councilmember Burns.
So if the voters choose to put through these 7 mills in the November election, we would still have to come up with an additional $3.47 million, or,
If they rejected the renewal, you're saying?
no, if,
Even if it passed.
If they
even if
approve
it's
it, we only
7
have to
mills
come up-
pass.
No, we
We have to come up with a little more.
Yeah, I mean, we have to find, and, we've had discussions, much of those discussions we have are going to be much more town hall oriented, I hope, where the public can provide input as well, and I know everybody on council wants that, of course, too. But in those discussions, we've talked about the various ways that we can find, new sources of revenue. One thing working in our favor, very few things working in our favor because of the various restrictions the state's placed on us and other cities like us. One thing working in our favor is that we do have a lot of new residents moving in, and when new residents move in, it uncaps the taxable value of the property, and we'll get the full gamut and revenue of those properties. We also have economic development projects coming in, and inflation set by the state is just over 1%. So believe it or not, that 1% is actually benefiting us to some degree. And then lastly, we also, if you look back at the last 5 to 6 years of the city's history, we have not gone on huge hiring sprees. We've maintained a pretty stable, cost-effective budget, and by doing so, we've been able to find, sources of savings through that too.
Okay, thank you.
This has to be voted on tonight and turned in. Got it.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, if I could. Just because, and let me just explain that too, it's a little confusing. Again, this is nothing new, it's just a recounting of what we've already done, but,
We just haven't seen it in this form.
And-
yeah,
and
and
see it
I
in
want to apologize
paper.
again for the last minute.
Madam Mayor?
We worked as hard as we could today, but the statute, the requirement is that city council has to have a resolution or motion supporting it, and then the administrative officer of the city has to sign.
So we are just supporting what's already being done, what's already been done. This is a summary of the history of what's been done to help the pension system. Councilmember Rich,
Also, we should point out, this has all been discussed at
Other
the
meetings. Many-
Pension Retirement Board committee meetings, which I sit on. Before the meeting happened today, I reviewed, I think there's the 5 waivers, and it's in the proper format, it appears to me, and it states what the city has already done, and hopefully we'll get those waivers, and we can continue to proceed forward to make the appropriate further changes in order to meet the requirements that the state law requires. But I would encourage us to vote for this. I don't know if there's a motion yet up.
yeah. So there's nothing new that we have to be concerned about.
I just want to add one thing, if I could. The one thing that I think we all agree on is that, it's one thing to fully fund your retirement system, whatever that may mean, 100% plus, whatever. The reality is, and I think we all know, that we have to find additional sources of dollars to use towards, getting out in front of this. And By doing so, everything we save on our annual contribution, if we were fully funded even, would mean those were dollars that could be freed up to take on other things that we otherwise couldn't have done. So it makes sense to do it regardless of what the state's putting on us or the 170 other communities.
These are things that we're already contractually bound to pay money into. This is not something that any of us have any control over. These contracts are old.
They aren't
Very
going away.
old.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
We're just left holding the bag. We got to figure out where to come up with this money from.
Yeah, I
Otherwise,
mean,
we're on the hook.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think anybody in the administration, I can speak with certainty, thinks that we're going to come up with $3.5 million additional dollars to what we're already contributing and solve this overnight. I mean, the reality is this is a long-term venture. It's it's not been something that a lot of cities have been able to overcome very easily. But there is a constitutional protection for pensions.
Right.
There is no constitutional protection for retiree health care. And are there better ways to deliver that? Maybe so.
But for the time being, we're bound by a contract that the city has
About the
with
healthcare?
people from decades ago. I mean, those contracts were signed decades ago.
In some cases, yes, that is true.
Further comments or questions?
Appreciate the clarity.
Ready to vote. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. We're on item C.
I think our Deputy Finance Director is going to take the, no.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Jamin, come on up.
Do you want to read it?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager. I have a resolution that I would like for you to approve. It's for the authorization for the city assessor to create special assessment districts for the collection of unpaid receivables or billings, specifically for delinquent utilities, false alarms, miscellaneous concrete replacement, property blight, and sidewalk replacement. These would have been bills sent out earlier last year with a due date of August 31st, 2017 and prior. So again, unpaid bills that are that can be set up as liens against the property and paid on their property tax bill or added to their property tax bill. Do you have any questions?
Okay, so let's get the motion in a second and then ask questions.
So moved?
Support?
Any questions for the Finance Department?
I have a question.
One question. Yes, Councilmember Weiss.
I noticed that there's a 10% fee associated with the special assessment. What is the rationale behind that 10% fee?
There are no penalties that are charged to a past-due bill of this type at all from the time of billing until up to this point. And so on the city charter, it does say that you'll add a 10% penalty when it's presented to City Council.
So that is in our charter.
Yes.
Okay. So we need a resolution authorizing the city assessor, and we have that in a second. And are there further questions about this item?
No.
No. Okay. Do we need a roll call? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item D.
Okay, item D is a continuation of item C in a way. It's now that we've approved the creation of these special assessment districts, for the list of the special assessment districts. This is to set up a public hearing for people who are on the list to come and argue or plead their reasoning behind why they should not have to pay or why they feel that they were billed incorrectly.
So let's get a motion, and then we'll ask you a couple questions. This is a resolution receiving the special assessment rolls and establishing April 16th, 2018 as the date for the public hearing on the rolls for unpaid charges for city expenses incurred on private premises for delinquent utilities, number 670, false alarm, 671, miscellaneous concrete replacement, 672, property blight, 673, and sidewalk replacement, 674. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
That's
Support.
Weiss and
Burns.
Burns. So how, if I'm a resident and I'm concerned, what are the ways that I can contact the city? I know that I can come to the April 16th meeting and speak publicly, but if I'd rather not do that, what are my options?
Yep, so city clerk will actually be sending out postcards to each of the property owners that are listed on the listing that was provided to you. The postcard will inform them of the public hearing and also that they can contact Treasury, the Finance Department, to inquire about the amount and what exactly was billed, and any other questions they may have, what work was performed and so on. And in addition to that, the city clerk does have to publish in the newspaper that will provide information for people with questions so they can contact the city.
And I know that if you have an issue about it, that it is carefully investigated by our staff.
But yes, that is correct. We'll go over each of the billings. If there's a question, they'll actually be removed from the special assessment district, and then the billing itself will be reviewed by the department that requested the billing initially. And then we will reconvene at a later meeting to present the findings to City Council, and we can make a decision on that at that point.
Great.
Madam Mayor?
Any questions? I can't see. Yes, Councilmember Weiss.
The postcards that are being sent out, are they being sent, I noticed that a lot of the addresses are from people who don't live in Oak Park, the owners. So I assume a lot of these are rental properties. Are they being sent to the owner, or are they being sent to the property itself?
They're sent to the owner that's on record in the assessing system, generally wherever the tax bill is sent. A lot of the times, you are correct in assuming that, or thinking that a lot of these might be rental properties. We found that if we send them to the rental property or to the property itself, they just go unanswered a lot of the time. So we send them to where we know a tax bill has gone. So
Thank you.
Yep.
And I think the renter is not responsible for those.
Correct. A lot of the times a lot of these items listed were for property blight, so for property board ups, for weed mowing, for snow removal, so on and so forth. Those would have been typically billings that occurred during a time of vacancy. So
The owner pays for the sidewalk replacement, not the renter.
correct.
Further questions?
That's the owner.
We ready for a vote?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yep.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I don't normally say this, but I do love the state of Michigan, so I have to say go blue tonight. And that completes the city manager report for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is call to the audience. Please give us your name and address when you come up with a comment, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anybody? It's a quiet group? Got a shy group today. All right. Mayor Pro Tem Radner, have any words of wisdom?
Go blue.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Weiss.
Sorry, I'm going to just a couple quick announcements. We already mentioned some of these, but Sunday, April 29th is World Dance Day. It's going to be in the community center from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. It's a wonderful event. There's going to be a lot of cultures represented, and
What's the time again?
6:30 to 9:30. More than likely, some food items to partake in. So please come out to that. And then Sunday, May 6th is going to be Spring Fest. That's from 1 to 4 p.m., also in the community center. And then Oak Park Public Safety Citizens Academy is going to be in May, on every Wednesday in May at 6:30 p.m. And so that's the 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th. If you're interested in that and attending that, please register soon by calling 248-691-7514. Thank you. Have a good night.
Councilmember Rich?
Good night.
Before adjourning, we are going to, I'd like a motion to convene into closed session to discuss attorney-client privileged communication.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Motion carried. There's no vote after that, so you don't have to wait. minutes to closed session.
Moved.
Second.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. There being no further business to come before the